So with the English market completely in shambles, and it seems a lot of people are struggling to get product, so during this period, people may be thinking, well, I can't really get any English products, so maybe I'll try some Japanese Pokemon products. And if you've come to that thought process, then I can tell you that you've actually come to the right choice. Japanese Pokemon cards are an incredible alternative, and they have an insane buyer market with a huge dedicated audience. And opening Japanese Pokemon products is one of the best experiences in collecting, and I'll explain why it's so unique throughout this video. However, probably one of the more common mistakes when people begin collecting Japanese is that they can assume that the English and Japanese markets are one for one. For example, some Japanese cards can be far cheaper than English counterparts due to pull rates and how they are actually obtained versus in English sets. I mean, there are some quick examples of this, right? If we compare the Japanese Magikarp Art Rare from Triple B versus the English Magikarp Illustration Rare from Paldea Evolved, at the time of recording this video, the raw Magikarp Art Rare sells for around 55 to 57 USD, right? Whereas the Magikarp Illustration Rare is currently selling for 230 USD. The Japanese version is a lot easier to obtain than the English counterpart. And if we look at another example, the Mew Special Illustration Rare, this has a very different market between the two regions. These two are both quite desired cards, but they were distributed differently, right? For the English TCG, you are guaranteed this Mew SIR from the promo in the Pokemon 151 UPC. Whereas with the Japanese set, the SAR was a chase card that could only be pulled from Pokemon 151 booster boxes. Because of this, their price varies heavily. The Mew in English sells for around 30 USD raw, whereas the Japanese Special Art Rare currently sells for around 75 USD, fetching more than double the price. So as you can see, the markets are pretty different, and you need to educate yourself on the sets and how the cards are obtained. What you don't want to be doing, right, is entering the Japanese market and thinking, oh, if this card is expensive in English, that it just means it's going to be expensive in Japanese, and vice versa, right? Because it's actually really important that you learn the distribution of cards could be very different, and the way you obtain the cards can be very, very different, and subsequently, the prices are different. So ensure to think of markets as standalone, and don't fall into that very common mistake that a lot of newcomers make, thinking that the markets will be identical. Now also, I just want to say, if you have been enjoying the video so far, a lot of research actually goes into creating these videos, so please feel free to give the video a like to help promote it within the algorithm. And also, if you're new here and love Pokemon cards and collecting, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. It's always amazing to see new people on board. Now, some of the key differences when talking about Japanese Pokemon cards and English Pokemon cards, it's very important to understand that there are some very unique but small differences that make them more desirable and less desirable in their own respective ways, right? Firstly, one thing to understand is Japanese Pokemon booster boxes are unique as they have guaranteed hit rates, meaning if you open a Scarlet and Violet Japanese booster box, you are actually guaranteed one Special Art Rare or something like that, so this makes them incredibly enjoyable to open, as you know you're guaranteed one hit per box. Though this also has a significant impact on the loose pack market, right? As with Japanese products, it's much better to purchase them as a booster box to avoid any scammers or people selling packs after the hit has been pulled, right? Now, one question that a lot of people wonder is, why do people even like collecting Japanese Pokemon cards that are not from Japan? And I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Like, wouldn't you rather be collecting from the region where you actually understand the language and you can read the cards, right? Though, as someone who's been collecting Pokemon cards for a while, I'd actually thought I'd let you know why I love collecting Japanese Pokemon cards and give some good perspective why a lot of collectors and investors share the same sentiment when it comes to Japanese Pokemon products. Now, before I get into the details, I'd like to actually thank the Beanos store, who are the paid sponsor of today's video. So if you're looking at purchasing some Japanese Pokemon cards, the Beanos store on Mercari US lets you shop for unique or discounted Japanese items, so the Beanos store connects US shoppers to the largest marketplace app in Japan, which is Mercari. Though here you have access of thousands of listings from Japanese sellers and offering massive variety of unique or discounted items. So you can search something specific here and use keywords such as Pokemon cards and see what's available. The benefits of Beanos is that you'll actually be able to access Japan's largest marketplace. Now, finding the Beanos store on Mercari US is super easy. All you need to do when you're searching Mercari US is use the search filter and set the origin filter to Japan to see the listings from the Beanos store. So if you've been wanting to get unique or discounted Japanese items, the Beanos store on Mercari US becomes incredibly useful. All the details are within the description of this video. Now, as I was talking about Japanese cards, they do have a few unique benefits over English. And let's get the first one out of the way, but I think it's a little bit of a small one, but I think it does make a world of difference when it comes to collecting, and that is the packaging of the cards. Japanese booster boxes and products have far better packaging than English. A lot of the Japanese booster boxes are destructible, meaning to open the booster box, you need to actually destroy the box by tearing it open on the side. Now, while this isn't 100% scam prevention, it does add a little bit of a nice touch to know that the booster box has been destroyed once open. Also, the way Japanese products are packaged makes them feel like a little bit of a gift box, right? There's a lot of care placed into them and you immediately notice the difference. They feel far more enticing to open. Though while packaging doesn't matter for a lot of people, I do think the opening experience is all about what makes Pokemon cards so special, and this is an important factor to consider. Though it is a commonly shared sentiment that Japanese Pokemon cards have better quality control. And I do have to admit that Japanese Pokemon cards printing textures and quality are superb, and a lot of the time they just feel that they've been created with more care and effort. I mean, a quick look at some famous cards, right? If we look at the chance to hit a PSA 10. So right now we're looking at the Charizard SIR from English 151 versus the Charizard SAR from Japanese 151. Now at the time of making this video, the English Charizard from 151 has had 33,750 copies sent in, and 11,900 have come back as a PSA 10, which is around a 35.2% chance of getting PSA 10. Whereas the Japanese Charizard from 151 has had 23,300 copies sent in, and 20,100 have come back as a PSA 10. So the chance to get a PSA 10 is 86.6% chance. So if you do send it in, it's actually very likely that it will come back as a PSA 10. Whereas for the English counterpart, not so much. Now, obviously that's just one example, but you can clearly see the stark quality control difference in just one card from the same set. I mean, even from my personal experience, I actually sent in 7 Japanese Pikachu promos to PSA, and 5 came back as a PSA 10, and the rest came back as 9s. So even my own personal experience, I've always found that Japanese sets have far better quality control. In fact, Japanese cards also have a very high CGC pristine 10 rate as well. Though it extends a lot more than that as well, right? A lot of the collectors love collecting Japanese Pokemon cards, as there's something incredible about collecting Pokemon cards and having them displayed in their origin language. Pokemon was created in Japan and it is a Japanese franchise. And the feeling of collecting Japanese cards has a level of authenticity that cannot be replicated. The characters, the quality, the style really give an amazing feel, and it's pretty known that the first time you open a Japanese Pokemon booster box, you kind of have this realization of like, whoa, okay, actually wait, you know what? I get it. This is incredible. There's something very different about Japanese Pokemon products, and it's something that needs to be experienced to kind of understand what we're talking about. And it's actually very common for people to only want to collect Japanese Pokemon cards because it does have this unique effect on people. You know, the cards, the quality, it really is something else. It's important to understand that Japanese audiences also have different preferences for what cards they like. For example, female trainer cards are very popular with Japanese audiences, and they are almost always the most expensive cards in any set. If a female trainer card is released in a set, the SAR will always be either the most expensive card of the set or a close second, whereas for the English TCG, this is almost never the case. If we look at Surging Sparks, the Lycia's Appeal Special Illustration Rare is sitting around 60 USD, whereas the Lycia's Appeal SAR from Paradise Dragona is currently selling for 125 USD, more than double in price. So you can see the clear price difference, right? But as I was saying, it is important to understand that the guaranteed hit rates do have some drawbacks. Now, one of them is not too bad, but sometimes when you pull the SAR out of the box, it can make the rest of the box feel a little underwhelming, and it can feel as if it's kind of already completed, which is a feeling you don't really get when you open English products, though I suppose that's just the nature of guaranteed hit rates. Now, another reason is that if you want to open Japanese products, there's usually more upfront cost, as you almost always need to buy a booster box, as loose packs are something a lot of collectors don't bother with, because there's always a chance that if once the SAR is pulled from a booster box, people can just sell the loose packs on their own, and then, you know, you're guaranteed to not actually have anything within those packs. Though I suppose one benefit is they are quite cheaper to buy. Though the Japanese market is quite stable, and one of the benefits of the Japanese market is just how strong it can be. Though there has been instances of the Japanese market crashing, and in 2023, Japanese female trainer cards reached new highs in the market, and they kind of seemed unstoppable. The crash was something we could all learn from, and there's some similarities with what's happening today as there was back then. And the question I guess we all want answers to is, what caused female trainer cards to crash so heavily in value? Well, the answer to that is right within this video here. Within this video, I uncover the Japanese female trainer card crash and explain in detail what caused it. Click the video that's appearing on screen to learn an integral part of Pokemon's history. I'll see you there.